I'm very glad to be joined by David. Welcome to the Comcast family. How's it been the first couple of weeks?
It's great. I've been here about a month. So thank you, Tom. Tama, I don't want any hard questions because I don't know the end. No, it's been great. Yeah.
Again, for full disclosure, I'm part of the Comcast family. I work for CNBC. Obviously, as a journalist, I have to be impartial, so this should be a really exciting discussion. And
here we go. Yeah.
When we read about the state of the advertising, the TV advertising market specifically in the US, we see a lot of gloom and doom headlines like, the advertising industry is in a recession or we're facing apocalypse. How bad is it really? And we know that so many consumers they're cutting the cord, they're flocking towards streaming. Just how bad is it? How dire is it right now?
Well, I think to put it in perspective, on the one hand, you have to say that, look, if you go back in time and look at the press around, say, the release of the TiVo box, the first DVR, which was 1995, look at the press that was written then, and it's all doom and gloom. This spells the end of television as we know it in 1995. Then look at the stock prices of the pure play television companies from 1995 to today, and it's been like straight up and to the right. So I think we have to remember, on the one hand, the television video ecosystem, or more broadly speaking, the premium video ecosystem is very, very resilient. On the other hand, we certainly do have some very real challenges, starting with the shifting consumer behavior that you mentioned, Carolyn. It's pretty clear, I think, to all of us that consumers are looking to get their content on demand, that their attention is more valuable than ever, and they want us to make sure that we value that attention appropriately. The big exception might be live video, which is just consumed differently. So we have to think long and hard about that. And then for marketers, marketers have more avenues and the power of software, the power of data than they've ever had. And in the television industry, we probably haven't moved fast enough to apply that to our environments. And even though we've seen a little bit of a resurgence over the last couple of years in some markets, not all, video advertising, we probably haven't come far enough. So is it doom and gloom? I would say no. I think we've got some incredible foundation. Television is the source of most creativity in the world these days, and is incredible. But we have a lot of work to do if we're going to sustain growth over the next 10 or 20 years.
Yet last week, our management at Comcast warned at an industry conference that we're going to be losing roughly 150,000 video subs in the third quarter, and they talked about this industry or this quarter being maybe the peak of competitive pressure. Are you seeing that in your side of the business too?
Comcast in particular, because Comcast has been so innovative in the technology it's putting in people's homes, the number of products they're putting in people's homes, including, what you get. Now, this is US specific. What you get on the X1 box includes Netflix, includes YouTube, that they have been able to sort of maintain that primacy in the home, and I think, will be more resilient than most going forward. But we also have to recognize that business models are changing, and we got to create new businesses.
Do you get the sense that maybe in the last 2 years or so, since we got the news from Disney, from ESPN back, and I believe that was early August of 2015, that's when I think we saw the headlines on the screen before. Do you think that ever since then, the demise and maybe the worries about the industry have accelerated? Because to me, from a media perspective, from covering the industry in depth, it certainly seems like it. Or do you think that in those 2 years, well, that's really been a wake-up call for your industry and you've really had to work hard at it?
Yes and yes. I think there's no question that consumers, particularly younger consumers, are increasingly looking to other ways to get content. Interestingly, they're consuming the same content. I have a 13-year-old son, and he came to me a couple weeks ago and said, "Dad, have you ever heard of a show called The Office?" I said, British or American? So kids are consuming content that was made for television. They're just doing it on other platforms and kind of on their own terms. So we're probably in a transition phase. We've got to recognize that not everyone is going to want to sign up for the packages that we signed up for as kids. But again, not necessarily doom and gloom as long as we recognize what's changing and adapt to it, and keep in mind that, if you just look at the scale of the video business today, we still have consumers' attention. And they still love a lot of what we produce. It's what we do with it is the question. Right?
Is it still profitable, though?
Oh, very. Yeah, I mean, the television industry is still profitable. Is it as profitable as maybe it once was? It depends, frankly, it depends who you talk to. But there's no question that there's margin pressure in a lot of places across the industry, yeah.
If I take a look at some of the most recent numbers from Comcast, again, you weren't with the company just yet, but I'm looking at second quarter numbers, and cable broadcast division saw some small declines in ratings declines, but somewhat offset by higher rates. But upfront advertising, that was still pretty successful. So overall, 2017 might not look so bad. What's your feeling?
Yeah, we've had it's a very strong upfront market in the U.S., led by NBCU. And that follows a very strong upfront market from 2016. Of course, that's not the whole market. Sure. So we have to be somewhat humble, I think. But the U.S. market has an interesting story over the last 3 or 4 years, and there's some interesting lessons that have come out of it. In 2015, we saw a big shift out of TV into digital. And then that money came back in 2016 and has continued into 2017. And our perspective on that is, the marketers that tend to buy television, that need the things that television or more broadly premium video is great at, broad reach very quickly, simultaneous reach in particular, and that storytelling quality experience that comes from, it puts the consumer in a certain state in order to receive your message. Those marketers saw an impact on their sales, in particular lack of new customer growth, that led them back into TV. What was interesting is the value was already there. There was a perception that maybe it wasn't because television wasn't doing a good enough job in measuring that value. So one lesson for us on the TV side is we have to help marketers, and for us at Comcast, we have to help our programmers, our clients, do this. Measure and make sure that their clients understand the value of their audiences and the value of the inventory. And then, of course, in the middle of all that, as Doma mentioned, there's been quite a bit of measurement and fraud and all sorts of issues in the digital side that have come to light, which has sort of amplified the entire thing. And television is clean and well lit and transparent.
Let me just pick up on that, because obviously the YouTube scandal this year, that was pretty huge. That very much rocked the entire industry. And maybe that's why some of the money from digital came back. Would you agree with that view? And is it sticky money that's going to come back to TV sustainably?
No question that it came back in large part because of that. I think for all those reasons that I've just mentioned, it's come back. However, I think for those of us in the space, we have to be cautious. And I think it's wise to have some humility in this, because the West Coast California companies are working really hard on cleaning this up right now, and they will. So we probably have a window in time, but it certainly did highlight the value of premium video in a very powerful way. And marketers certainly have been very clear that they value that transparency, that safe environment, and the reach that is very important to them. So now everybody knows it and everybody's working on it. Yeah.
Well, losing ad revenue to the digital players, that's one thing, but we know that these digital players, they're also working on TV products, and we saw that. I think there was a research note on Facebook, once again overstating the people that could actually watch it.
Yes.
How do you feel about these kind of headlines? It seems like they're simply not going away.
And they're not going to. the economics of TV are so phenomenal, even today, that for these companies to grow, we all have to recognize that that's where, you know, Facebook and Google and Amazon and so on, who, you know, they're not the enemy, but we have to be very respectful of them. You know, they're our partners. For many of us, they're also our partners.
Frenemies.
Frenemies, if
Yes.
you were. But we do have to recognize that for them to grow as businesses, they need to move into this space. They just have to. And, you know, we have to ask ourselves, is that a good thing, you know, for the space? Our view at Comcast is, well, let's look at let's just look at the record. You know, Facebook and Google last year took all 100% of the growth in digital, 100%. So if you're a pure play digital publisher and one of those companies comes to you and says, hey, we're here to help you grow your business, well, they took 100% of the growth, so I'm not sure how that math works. We have to be wary of that if we're going to continue to grow. Our view is that, as we're doing here today, that nobody knows this ecosystem as well as we do, top to bottom, we being all of us in this room. And why not come together and create the platforms and the technologies and the marketplaces and all that marketers are asking us to create? Why don't we do that on our own and share in the opportunity? And
that's maybe why we've seen some very strange bedfellows, as we've seen before, some of the rivals actually partnering up here in Europe. I guess that's also happening to some degree in the US. Does that surprise you, that move?
You know, it's like Game of Thrones. I don't know anybody. No, it doesn't surprise me at all. I think we have more in common with each other. We speak the same language. We finish each other's sentences. And we're also becoming really good technologists. It's one thing I'm very excited about being at Comcast, why we put this group together. We've got just world-class technology organization, a lot of entrepreneurs who have come together to do this. I think when you blend the two things together, we can do it. But I think much better to look to essentially our colleagues to do this than, you know, someone who may not have your best interest in mind.
All right, David. Also want to talk about one of the other big trends in the industry. It's obviously addressable or targeted, whatever you want to call it. I just want to throw out some stats. Currently, the spend in the US, at least, is around $1 billion. Now, I saw a research note coming from Credit Suisse saying that targeted TV advertising represented a potential $100 billion opportunity. That seems like a pretty high number. Is that too ambitious?
That's a big number. So I read that report too. Yeah, so addressable, you know, we have to deliver reach and we have to deliver relevancy. And addressable is a big part of delivering relevancy. We're in the early stages of it in different markets. We've got sort of different states of play. Even in the US, where I think we have maybe 75% of homes are capable of receiving addressable ads. Not on all networks, not on all systems, you know, so we've got some work to do. So it's small relative to the overall pie, but growing very, very quickly. And I think there is consensus that as an industry, we have to get there. As far as the Credit Suisse report goes, where they're looking for that growth, that 100 billion, in two places. One is, let's get a share of the larger marketing and communications budget. Right? Remember, advertising itself is just a portion of marketers' total marketing spend. So by creating an addressable world, you can go get it. And that may be true, actually. So I think that's exciting. The other part of the case was that, you know, Google has 4 billion clients and Facebook has, million. 4 million clients, Facebook has 2 million clients, mostly small, medium-sized businesses, that those clients can move into TV or premium video. I think that's also possible. Maybe not quite to the extent or as quickly as the Credit Suisse report laid out. But I think it's an opportunity that we should be thinking about long and hard. So, I mean, there's all sorts of other things that have to happen in order for that to be possible for these kinds of businesses, including solving the creative issue. But I think it's something that we should be thinking about. So maybe a little too bullish, but we're paying attention to it.
But bottom line, you say this is inevitable. You have to be in the space if you want to.
Addressable?
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are some pitfalls at this point when it comes to measurement, for example. I guess there's no benchmark really when it comes to measurement of targeted advertising. I also think that maybe buying would be pretty complicated. How do you work around these issues?
I think it starts with the marketer. What does the marketer want to measure? Right now, we're giving them broad demographics and day part rotations, but marketers want to measure results, and they want to measure their results. So I think that's where we're moving. We're doing some really interesting stuff on the data side and showing marketers, as I said, just showing them the value of television and sort of really confirming their suspicions. We always knew it was valuable. We couldn't really sort of put our finger on exactly how valuable. And when you look at set-top box data and you marry it to other data sets and their own first-party data, and you can create real attribution models, whatever it may be, they really start to understand the value of premium video, particularly the incremental reach that you can get from these platforms. We just need to be doing a lot more of it. So is there going to be a one measure, or is there even going to be one source of truth? Is it going to be Nielsen, right? Or is it just going to be the server? I don't know. But I think the way we answer the question is start with the marketer.
David, before we wrap this up, you talk a lot about data. Comcast does as a whole. What have you guys done on data?
Well, the biggest news that we've made lately, we announced it in Cannes, and many of you might have been there, is our blockchain initiative. And that's consistent with our overall strategy. Our view is we should create a tool or an environment that all members of the ecosystem can participate in, and that's essentially what blockchain does. It's a very sexy word these days, but what we're really talking about is the ability for you to protect your data, not have to sort of hand it over to someone you might consider a competitor, but also query everybody else's data set so that you can create unique and targetable audiences. That's essentially what the blockchain allows us to do. It's very powerful. We're off to the races. We're investing in it pretty aggressively. We're inviting other people to the table. It's not the only data initiative we have, but we're excited about it.
And finally, we've got about 1 or 2 minutes left on the clock, and this is one of my favorite questions. I don't know the answer. I guess you don't know. No one here has a crystal ball, but what do you think this industry will look like in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years? If you and I sat here in let's say 7 years, do you still think that TV advertising is a thing, is profitable enough? Is it going to be all in sports? Where is it going to be?
So the first answer to that question is I have no idea, if I'm being totally honest. I think anyone in media who claims they know exactly where it's going to go is probably full of it. But I think part of answering the question is getting back to fundamentals. Like, what do we know is sort of universally true? We know that the content that this industry makes and the storytelling that comes out of this industry is always going to be in demand. Just as human beings in their society, we have a thirst for it that I don't think is ever going to go away. And I think it's very hard to do, and this industry does it better than anyone else. Marketers are always going to need the attention of consumers to build their brands and to sell their products. And we think in premium video that we deliver the most attention and the best sort of flavor of attention, if you will, of anyone else. So all of that together, I think there will be a healthy world. It's almost certainly not going to look like it is today. And our hope is that it's a world that all of us are thriving in, and we continue to build upon the amazing legacy of all these companies. So.
All right, David, that was great. Thank you so much for that. Best of luck at Mexico. Best of luck in your job. We'll see you here maybe next year or in Hopefully. 7 years' time and see what this industry is all about then. David, thank you so much for that. Round of applause to David. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm James Wright. Thanks for watching Marketing Media Money. To check out more online videos, just click on the boxes and don't forget to subscribe to the CNBC Live channel at the bottom of the screen.